That seems a little bit high. Hello and welcome to the Hppo show. Live every Friday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Standard Eastern Time. We're here designing a 4-player card game, the Freelander Adventures. A halfway point between Munchkins and Dungeons and Dragons, as far as complexity and game mechanics. If you're finding this on YouTube, just sit back, relax, minimize the vid, and enjoy the struggle of us working through the challenges of creation. Maybe leave a like, share this with your Discord or Telegram friends, and we as in the voices in my head, hope you come and join us next Friday on Twitch. We here start the show with a scripted topic related to game design and theory, then spend about another hour and a half working that topic into whatever aspect we are creating design docs for. This week's design topic will be the planning phases of brainstorming and the next step, scaling down. Over the past 2 weeks, we outlined 4 non-combat cards and 4 combat quest cards. These would be similar to kicking in a door, but exclusively not like that. This week we are going to be creating 4 equipment cards. Yeah, that's what's on the docket today. Alright, on to the scripted part. Alright, now about brainstorming. It's the easiest part of the create process. Most people never move past it and into the actual work part of being creative. I'm not going to lie, I find it best to brainstorm with other people, at least 1 to 2. 2 to 3, at least one other person, but 2 to 3 works. 5 or more and you'll get one asshole who disrupts the whole process and tries to ego wrestle everyone into submission, shooting down their ideas, reinforcing his, and just like adding on variations of this, that, or the other. Like, you get enough people together, one of them is going to be an asshole. Brainstorming is traditionally laying out all the ideas on the table. Like, nothing's off limits. It's the most free and open part. So, for example, if I was just laying out ideas relative to this card game, it'd be like dragons, magic, laser guns, holographic foils, a VR point, Rule 34 advertising campaign. Yeah, see, that right there shows you anything goes in this process. Get all those juicy ideas out. There is nothing but silence left in your mind, other people's minds, until like all the pauses are gone. And then you can always go back and re-brainstorm and then work through this process over and over again for each individual step. Oh yeah, and if you're actually brainstorming alone, you need to put your thoughts onto paper and outside of your mind. What happens if you don't is you start to think that you're still thinking about new shit, but you're not. You've just become a juggler, adding more and more balls to the juggle. Eventually you can't add any new balls, and if you drop one, it's gone forever. You'll replace it with another one that may not have been as good. You think you're working hard, and you are, but it's as effective as punching stone to mine diamonds. You need a pick to get that shit out, just as you need a pen and paper to get that shit out of your mind, so you can actually look at it. So that's the first part, right? Brainstorming is pretty fucking basic. Now comes the part people hate so much that they just stay in the brainstorming phase their whole lives. Scaling. Scaling is the next step. Now you have all these wondrous, fantabulous, precious ideas on paper. You need to ask, what's important now and what's important later? Whatever is important later gets moved to a future file to be addressed when you're near that part of production or that part of the process. Alright, this Rule 34 advertising campaign should be considered near the end of testing when we are weeks from launch, not months. Right now, the plan is still to start a Kickstarter in June, so while we want advertising around then, like a full focused advertising campaign won't be necessary until probably December. And again, like, we don't even know if we'll be close enough to even test around June, so we don't know if we'll have to push back that date. So it does us no good to think about advertising anywhere near today. Alright, so that's just one of those things we move to later. Then let's go through and find out what's out of scope. What's out of scope here? As in beyond our capabilities, what can we not possibly accomplish? Like a VR port, interesting, but we need a card game before we can make it into a digital property or a port back to the ether with you, essentially, because that is years from now, right? That'd be like Walt Disney sitting around in the 1960s going, you know, these computers with their dot matrix printers, I think they're the next step in digital animation. Yeah, that's gonna do him no good, right? He will be long dead by then. So toss that shit out, back to the void. Now ask if there are any other ideas you can cut, and if so, why. Laser cuts. Well, cut that shit. This isn't a Shadowrun card game, right? This isn't Cyberpunk. We're gonna probably strictly stay within the realm of magic and sorcery. This card game being based on like having such a similar aesthetic to Munchkins and Dungeons and Dragons, but 100% original, hopefully, as well as this whole thing is to promote my books, the Contract Man series, a series of novellas, which are Western fantasies, Western style gunplay in a fantasy setting with magic and sorcery and crap like that, but with Western style storytelling and themes. You know, a man rides into town, gets all the women, kills all the bad guys, fights a dragon or two. Yeah, you can go check that out. Links will probably be below, and if not, just search HNGY, Hppo, and that'll bring up my author webpage, and you can read the first 20 pages of any of the books for free. I only recommend you read book 3, because the rest of the books suck right now, and I don't have money or time to fix those. Okay, back to laser guns. So laser guns, while as cool as those are, right, we're not going to implement anything close to that. But here's the thing. Don't dismiss this idea during the brainstorming phase. Like whether you came up with it or someone else came up with it. Because if someone else came up with it, they're not going to want to contribute anything else, right? They're going to discount themselves and say, oh no, this item's just as stupid as that item. And the same thing's going to happen to you. If you discount any of your stupid items, you're going to be like, oh no, I'm an idiot, and not want to... Yeah, you're not going to want to discount any of your own ideas, because regardless of how stupid they are, after you start getting to the scaling phase, right, you want to at least see if they're feasible, and you won't come up with new ideas if you're constantly batting down. And even then, a good idea you might bat it down because you dismiss it offhand, whereas you should evaluate it on its own merits. And if you dismiss it before you even put it on paper and get it to this next step of scaling, then you might as well not even have the idea in the first place. But you did, and now you've lost it. And that, man, that shit sucks. Because then you can get to a point later in the process where you're like, oh man, if I would have invested a little bit of time into that idea, like this might have solved that problem. So yeah, don't dismiss anything during the brainstorming phase, no matter how dumb. Brainstorming is a safe space, scaling is live fire, and production is war. Like, so many things are going to die in the production phases and the actually getting stuff done. Now that we've run through those questions of like what's in scope, what can we clearly cut, what's obviously wrong, like what can we deal with later, anything else that didn't like nicely fit into those, let's evaluate those ideas. So holographic foils, right? This one's really tricky because this is either a yes or a no now. Yes, and it will affect the art design and the cards as well as the production and the manufacture. No, and it will have the benefit of simplifying everything. But damn, holographic foils are cool. But not having some shinies, we will not be cool like those. Like people like me, whose eyes sparkle looking at a nice foil, who can put them on display. So, alright, boys, in my head, let's start talking about solutions. If we can, we should. What are the limiting factors? Our limiting factors are cost, production and time, as well as art direction. So first, let's look to mitigate the risk of cost. Well, we have a rough idea of what it would cost. We will need a rough idea of what it will cost. Then we need to add 20% because estimates are always wrong, right? You're going to pay more in taxes. Something could go wrong in the design process. Something could go wrong with the manufacturer. Something could go wrong with everything. So, quick Google search later. MakePlayingCards.com, and it looks like we can get 18 unique gloss finish cards. Like, I looked around for other types of foiling, but nothing good came up. So 18 unique for about $17 a pack, for a total of $2.60 per card. Add another 20% and we get $3 per card. So $3 per card is not that bad. But if our goal price is $20 to $40 for the Kickstarter campaign, that's just too much of the profit model to soak up. So, alright, voices, I want some solution. And the voices say, what's that? Yes. Ooh, I know. We could make foils part of the stretch goal. Good. We will add that note, and we can file this whole thing under ship for later. If we reach a stretch goal, we can cut the cost of the stretch goal. Right, so that's good because with a Kickstarter campaign, you want different tiers of stretch goals and things like that, so that people are more motivated to share and donate more or get things boosted. Plus, everything you're dealing with in a typical economy like we are right now is you're dealing with scale. It's like, because while this is $7 a pack for 18 unique cards, right, for more cards than that, or for tons and tons of packs, that cost just starts sinking to the ground, right, until you're paying $1 a pack. So if you reach a stretch goal, you've already had that many customers, and that cost can just start shrinking down. So yeah, we can file this in our shit for later pile. it helps if you create a place for that stuff to live. I like to create a file system, make a note on my calendar of when I think we should be near that part of the project, and that pops up, and then I know where those old ideas live, and I don't have to juggle a constant ball in my head or a white string around my finger like, oh yeah, don't forget, you're supposed to add this in when you get to this part. Like, when I get to that part, I like to already have a file with a few Word docs and like, oh, okay, now that we're working on the Kickstarter portion, right? Stretch goals. Oh, look, I already filled this part out months ago, right? So I have all this stuff to already work with that I've worked through. Because unfortunately, like, everything doesn't go from A to B to C to D, right? Sometimes you come up with MNLOP all the way early in production, right? But you can't do anything about it until you actually get to that part of the alphabet. Okay, let's get on with today's work, though. That's enough about scaling. Do we have any questions from chat? Oh my, of course not. There's no one here. Like, comment, and subscribe. Or don't. You're not even real anyways. Okay, worky time. Because, yeah, we don't have anybody yet. Right? Yeah. Yep. Oh, just me. Just me again. Which is expected. Like, that's the fate of this whole thing. Is while I am free to panic and get over my fears of broadcasting and all that smooth jazz, and nobody else shows up, I can quickly run through these topics and we can get on to the mission of the day. No, I have it into here. No. Alright. So today's goal is equipment cards. Right. The basic function of equipment cards should be to add stats, improve escapes, temporary buffs, now if you remember from when we created our quest cards, and each quest card had a unique reward attached to it, right? Those unique rewards should be the highest desired tier, because right now we have our core gameplay loop being each player begins their turn. Each player has 3 actions they can take on their turn. Going on a quest takes 1 action. Drawing an equipment card takes 2 actions. And drawing a feat takes 2 actions. And healing themselves for a rest takes 1 action at the end of their turn, or takes the remainder of their turn, and then they get to heal themselves for 1d6 if they've taken damage that turn, or 1d6 per action spent. So if you go on a quest and you get the shit kicked out of you, then you end your turn, and the 2 leftover actions you have allow you to rest and heal back up to probably near full health. So health, So other notes, drawing. So the advantage of the equipment cards is while they're probably not going to be as powerful or as diverse as the quest rewards. You will be able to see and choose what the equipment cards are with 0 to no risk to your character, resulting in so yeah, drawing it. I envision equipment cards like this. There's at the start of the game, 3 equipment cards are turned face up. There's a face down draw pile of equipment cards. The player can choose to draw an equipment card, and then that will be replaced with a face down equipment card. So while it costs 2 actions, right? Automatically it's costing 2 actions, so you're not going to get 2 quest rewards, right? Because you could go on 2 quests and then get 2 quest rewards, which could be significantly better or equal to, or even added up just marginally better than the 1 equipment card you get. But the equipment card, you get to know beforehand how good it is. So some equipment cards will be better than others, right? Some equipment cards will just be raw stat bonuses. So right now, the way we're dealing with stats is each character, like each character class has innate stats. So the fighter, all of them have the strength, con, int, wiz, dex, charisma, right? And the temporary stats that we assigned right now, because we don't want to get into moving numbers around until playtesting. And then we're going to first move the numbers around thematically. So thematically, right, the fighter is going... Thematically, the fighter is going to have higher. So the ranges are going to be like... 5 will probably be the lowest, right? And 10 will be the highest. So the fighter will be towards the higher end, right, of strength. Constitution, right, in the middle. And then so okay. Not sure where my thoughts are right now. Okay, because while I do write all this out, and I do 99% of it in front of you guys on screen, like I'm just thinking about the next thing to talk about. So it's clear these are the stats, these are the ranges. It's preferable that you go on quests, not take damage, not die, uh, and get more of the unique rewards before the end of 3 rounds, right? Each player takes a turn, each player takes 3 actions. After each player has taken a turn 3 times, you begin epic monster combat, and if you defeat that monster, then again, rinse and repeat until 3 epic monster combats happen. I really got to start diving into epic monster combat. I think that'll probably be in 2 weeks. We'll figure out all of that because we'll have all the foundation set up, because we need our feat cards, our equipment cards, at least a baseline, because what we can do is we can just multiply these equipment cards and things like that, and we can go down to the just 4 character classes, because right now we have, like, when you defeat Frankenstein, right? Yeah, let me pull that up real quick. Okay. So, like, the way we have, I definitely think our combat encounters are the best right now. So, alright, the way we have it. So, if you defeat Frankenstein's monster, right, you get a special loot reward. The special reward is Detached Head. If a player's stat is highest in Intelligence or Wisdom, +2 to Intelligence. If a player's stat is Strength Constitution, -1 to Wisdom. Once per turn, you may tap this to deal 2 bite damage to an enemy. If you do roll a d10, if the number is less than 5, discard Detached Head. So, hold on, got a cough. So the way we have these loot cards broken down is the quest reward is good for any type of character, and it doesn't just say, like, oh, if you're a wizard, this is what you do. If you're a paladin, this is what you get. If you're a rogue, this is what you get. So what we do have, right, is, like, let's say you're a ranger, right? You're going to be high in dexterity. Once per turn with Frankenstein's Head, you may tap, render this unusable, and re-roll 1 stealth check. So if you're a ranger, you can still probably use stealth. If you're a bard and you're high in charisma, you can still probably use stealth. But there are going to be scenarios since we designed these loot cards to respond to your stats and not your character class, right? We're going to have scenarios where maybe your intelligence becomes your highest stat. So now all of a sudden, all your loot cards from your quests are going to be changed, because what they give you now is now going to be based on intelligence, and you were a fighter, right? So that's a problem, maybe, right? We'll get into that in playtesting. So because a equipment card is going to take 2 actions, right? even if we create a simple equipment card, card number 1 +2 so even if we create a simple equipment card +2 to intelligence, right, glasses +2 to intelligence. They make you looker smarter. Right, so that's going to take you 2 actions to get. Now you could have gotten 2 special loot cards for those 2 actions that this cost you, but you get to choose. So if you're a fighter and you choose to take these glasses, right, in round 1, and your starting strength was 8, right, your starting constitution was 7, and your starting intelligence, right, was 6. Now your starting intelligence is the same as your starting strength, right? So that's awkward, right? Now, at least with our combat loot cards, right, they only give you something if one thing is your highest stat, right? And they give you an action, right? So this one, if your highest stat is intelligence wisdom, it gives you +3 to wisdom, right? So automatically it knows, okay, you're either highly intelligent or highly wise, right? So not much can go wrong here. So yeah, the playing card soldiers, right? If your highest stat is dexterity and charisma, it gives you bonuses then to your dexterity and your charisma. So if that changes, right, if it overcomes that, then those ones will fall away. But an equipment card that just gives you base boost, right, that may not be great. So we could mitigate this by doing the same thing with our loot rewards, but I feel right now that kind of makes them not a little bit special. It makes them like not as unique, not as engaging, because then even though the cost is double, right, potentially double, because going on quests could damage your character and then you need to take the whole turn to rest, right, or even flat out kill your character. That's very possible. And in fact, the roguelike conditions of this game are one of its drawing points. So, how do we resolve this? Because if we just give flat out numbers, right? Like we either have to add a caveat So I don't have problems with people being a fighter, right? For some of the unique things fighters are going to be able to do. Like, fighters are probably going to be able to learn any feat, use any weapon, things of that nature. But like, I don't want to have to go through the creation process and be like, okay, like, that's just not good. And then we could add a caveat to the overall rules, right? If you're tied for one or more stat, then you get to choose. But I don't know. I kind of see an issue there where now the most optimal play is to always have like one or two stats tied. So your strength is tied with your intelligence all throughout the game, so that you get to choose how your special loot rewards you. Another way is we can bake into the classes themselves, right? Adjustments. Or like, by baking in adjustments, I mean not changing the numbers, but but we could say simply fighters get +1 . So we could do that. Fighters get +1 to strength if any stat is tied with it. So what this does, though, is it means if you get the glasses, right? Right, you equip the glasses. Now your intelligence is 8. Instead of you getting +2 intelligence, right, as a helpful bonus, you now have 9 strength, right, which will help you with strength rolls. So that's not terrible. But I don't know, that just doesn't like feel good to me. And then again, I don't really want to class lock like the equipment cards, because that's going to be 100% no fun. Because if there's only 3 equipment cards available, but already we have 6 classes, right? The odds that those will be good enough for one of the 4 people to use are not going to be high. So here we've done the same thing as, but instead of it being on the class cards, right, we add it to the classes themselves, and instead we reduce the effectiveness of the classes, right? So automatically this interaction between the fighter and glasses is that if the fighter picks up the glasses, right, int would be +2, except intelligence would tie with strength, right? Except intelligence would tie with strength. So instead, it only gives a +1 bonus. So now his intelligence is 7, right? So somewhat useful in case there's an intelligence check later during one of the non-combat quests, but at the same time, right, it's now clearly more favorable for a wizard to have, who's going to have, or a mage. I don't have wizards in my universe. Right, so a mage has a high intelligence, like average strength. Right, so now a mage with classes is now 10 intelligence. So okay, we have one card done. I think that's the way we should go forward with this from now on. Adjustments being baked onto the card. To prevent ties of cross-classing. Now that's not to say like again, I want cross-classing because I think it's going to be interesting, especially since you'll be able to control it more effectively with equipment cards and feats. Not that we have a concept of what feats are yet, but like we already have one combat card, right? The Dr. and Jekyll card, where if you tap this does not untap ever. While this is tapped, your intelligence and your strength are switched, right? So again, that'll only check during the time of your tapping, right? So if you're a wizard, now your strength is really high, right? This doesn't affect itself, right? But one thing this does do, right, is this is now set up an interaction where if your intelligence was +2, right, because of the glasses, and you were the fighter, right? Oh no, your intelligence is only +1. But if you get another +1 intelligence, right? Crap, now you're tied. No, you would need another +2 intelligence. Or actually, right? No, automatically. Because if you had the glasses, so if you had the glasses, +2 to intelligence, right? Oh no, our intelligence is the intelligence is tied at 8, so it's only +1. So that's +7. Now if you get another +1 intelligence, right, you're not going to be tied again at 8. You're going to be at 9 intelligence, right? So automatically, doo-doo. So okay, that tips it. So then if you activate the Berserker's Blood, now you've switched your intelligence and your strength. So now your strength is 9 and your intelligence is 6. Well, and now your intelligence is 8. So that sets up this cool, weird little interaction, right? Because with all these different cards, you're going to have different permutations and actions and such. I need to go back, and what we need to do is add an asterisk, right? In the event of ties for loot cards, so if we add this asterisk, we permanently solve the problem of ties. But we can still keep this, right? So these asterisks solve the problem permanently, right, of the if-then. Right, and keep you more towards your character class. So you can have strength of 8, intelligence of 8, but your special loot will respond to your strength in the event of a tie. Okay. Yeah, so that works. So we have card 1 done. Let's go to card 2. Like, oh, I wanted to bust out some math real quick. So each turn, the players are going to have one opportunity to draw an equipment card, right? There's going to be 4 players per game, 3 turns per epic monster combat. So 1 equipment card times 4 players times 3 turns times 3 rounds of epic monster combat. So that's a total of 36 equipment cards you need at minimum, right? And we're only getting done with 4 today. So we might round that up to like 40, but that's the bare minimum of equipment cards we want, so that at the very least, right, if all the players want to do is draw equipment cards to try to feed the bosses, that's what they'll have to do. Like, so 36, so we know how many equipment cards we'll need eventually. Alright, card number 2. So we have a headpiece. Right, we probably won't have restrictions, like you can only wear so many helmets, right? I think creatively, it'd be pretty easy to just bust through a lot of these. Because what do you want out of your equipment cards? You probably just want raw stat increases. Health potions, right? Health pot. Discard, discard. For action. Roll a d10. Heal for that amount. Right. That seems good. That seems balanced. Right. Untap at the end of your turn. Tap. Take an additional action. No, wait. That doesn't work. I'm trying to think. So okay, never mind. Just delete. Scrap it. And yes, I know we just talked about brainstorming and how this is essentially brainstorming. All ideas are on the table, right? But I actually think we'll probably want to put like gaining additional actions into the feat cards, right? Because we're not really complex right now. Right? All we have as far as resources are players' actions, right? You have a limited number of actions during your turn. You have a limited number of actions during epic monster combat, which we still have no idea how that's going to work yet. Only that like it should be complex, thrilling, and epic. Epic. So yeah, so that'll go into the back of my mind into the later file for feat cards. Okay, so we don't even have mana as a resource because I don't see any reason to have that. Oh, that reminds me. One action, roll a d10, heal for that amount. Oh no, we said that mages won't have feats. They'll have their spells on feats, right? And that'll be the defining characteristic of the mages, is that they'll need to get feat cards to be spells. Sort of. Okay, so I think that works, right? If strength is greater than 8, add 2 damage to your damage rolls. Yeah. I definitely see a lot of weird and funny stuff happening once we start to actually playtest this. I think we can get into playtesting into 2 weeks, at least through the core concept of the game. Alright, number 4. There we go. That seems pretty simple. Sneakers. Discard to escape. That's not quite clear. Discard this at any time. Escape non-epic monster combat without penalty. You take no damage from that combat encounter. Okay, I think that's pretty good. It's pretty funny. Pretty entertaining. Yeah, I like it. Alright, so then the next thing to do is feats. Right. Again, now, since equipment cards like serve since equipment cards are going to serve mechanical functions, right? Whereas our quest cards and will serve our quest cards and our loot cards will serve thematic functions as well as mechanical. Like, The problem I'm having in my brain is this is really the easiest part, because mechanically you just, like, one of the ways we could have done this is we just take each of the types of classes, right? We have fighter, or, well, we have the 3 types of classes, right? We have combat classes, right? Fighter, paladin, barbarian, right? We have our non-combat classes, right? Well, we have our strength classes, we have our dex charisma, our strength con classes. Right, we have our dex con, the ranger, the bard, the rogue. Right, and then we have our int whiz classes. Right, mage, cleric, druid, probably. Yeah, all those thematically fit, right? So that's 9 classes total, about 36 cards, right? So we would need, what, 3 cards per class, right? So up here we already have, right, a rogue theme card, a barbarian theme card, right, a neutral card, right? So then we could have 4 neutral cards, or however many neutral cards we need, right, as well as our intelligence themed card. Okay, yeah, as far as creativity goes, I don't know what else to do. Well, I think through this in my head. Gonna play a little bit more music. Alright, so that's the HPPO show. Thanks for joining us. Episode 4. We created 4 equipment cards. If you like what we're doing here, come check us out on stream on HNGY HPPO over at Twitch. Give us a follow so we know to expect you. Even if nobody shows up ever, I'll still be doing this. Leave a comment here on YouTube, or if this is another platform, leave a comment there. Yeah, if you like what we're doing, let me know. Again, I'll be streaming live every Friday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This episode's certainly a little too short. I thought there was going to be other challenges with equipment cards other than, oh look, it turns out like these are best if we handle them at a later stage of development, right? Then we can fill in gaps, or because equipment cards are going to cost 2 actions and they're going to like be gimmies, right? You'll have a 1 in, or what is it? So if we have 3 equipment cards, or even if we have 4 equipment cards sprayed out, right, you're going to have a 1 in 10 chance of having any good equipment card. out at the time. So if you shuffle the equipment, you could just spend your turns shuffling the equipment pile and drawing the equipment that you need to be effective and good. So really, like, this is playtesting stuff. But I hope you learned something about brainstorming and scaling down. Like, on a personal note, back in 2016, 2015-ish, I was going to do a food truck with my wife, and so we brainstormed and we came up with all the things she wanted to cook, right? Eventually we had a menu of about 30 items, right? And so what we started doing is looking at everything, seeing what was similar, what takes the same ingredients, what takes special ingredients, what takes special care, what do you cook on this equipment, what do you cook on that equipment, what takes this much counter space. And we brought it all the way down to 4 or 5 items that we could do really well, turn around really, really quickly, right? And possibly be profitable after we got the food truck up and running. So instead of doing a full restaurant menu of 30 items, if we just did 5 items really, really good, right? People are going to come back and they're going to order those 5 items. And the big benefit too is if you only have 5 items, people won't be paralyzed by choice, right? So again, there's like, what I want to happen is people to go on quests and get the unique loots. Yeah, that's also one thing that's bugging me about this health pot. Is this health pot, we probably want to take this away from the equipment pile and put it into the loot, because it's so good, and because if you discard it, it does its thing, which, like, from a mechanical standpoint, you don't want to spend 2 actions on something that will just heal you 1 round, like 1d10, when 1 action will heal you a d6. So, like, mechanically, the health pot being in the equipment pile is bad, but if we move it over to the loot pile, right, that'll be good. So, thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching this and just listening to my voice, the soothing sounds of the ocean as I slur my S's and try not to assail your ears with the terribleness that I am. Yeah, again, let me take this opportunity again to plug my book. It is really, like, the best way you can support me is buy the 99-cent copy of The Duke and the Dragon, Contract Man, Issue 3, available now on Amazon. Leave a review if you liked it. Leave a review if you hate it. If there's a 2-star or a 4-star review, I don't give a shit. Like, I would rather have 5 stars and 1 stars. Because what I love most about 1-star reviews, right, is you can either tell the 1-star review is from an angry person, right, who never wanted to read or purchase the product in the first place, or they're angry about they didn't understand the product, right? Or there's a 1-star review that lists out all the things that that person hated about the book. Now, me, if I just jump to the 1-star review, it's not going to be long paragraphs like good 5-star reviews. It's not going to be long paragraphs like good 4-star and 3-star. It's going to be, the book had this in it, the book had this in it, too much of this, right? And I'll be like, oh, I like that. I also like that. I also like that. I save myself 10 minutes picking apart longer reviews to read a 1-star review and go like, oh, okay, this person doesn't like that type of book. I do. And then, or, oh, I don't like those things either. I don't have to waste my time with this. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. This is the end of the stream. Much love.